It is normal to give away a little of one's life in order not to lose it all. By definition, a government has no conscience. Sometimes it has a policy, but nothing more. It is necessary to fall in love, if only to provide an alibi for all the random despair you are going to feel anyway. We turn toward God only to obtain the impossible. Too many have dispensed with generosity in order to practice charity. All that I know most surely about morality and obligations I owe to football. When you have really exhausted an experience, you always reverence and love it. Men are convinced of your arguments, your sincerity, and the seriousness of your efforts only by your death. To abandon oneself to principles is really to die, and to die for an impossible love which is the contrary of love. In order to understand the world, one has to turn away from it on occasion. Without culture and the relative freedom it implies, society, even when perfect, is but a jungle. This is why any authentic creation is a gift to the future. The only real progress lies in learning to be wrong all alone. A free press can, of course, be good or bad, but most certainly without freedom, the press will never be anything but bad. No cause justifies the deaths of innocent people. Freedom is nothing but a chance to be better. The modern mind is in complete disarray. Knowledge has stretched itself to the point where neither the world nor our intelligence can find any foothold. It is a fact that we are suffering from nihilism. We used to wonder where war lived, what it was that made it so vile, and now we realize that we know where it lives, inside ourselves. Men must live and create, live to the point of tears. Blessed are the hearts that can bend, they shall never be broken. Nothing is more despicable than respect based on fear. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. I would rather live my life as if there is a God and die to find out there isn't, than live as if there isn't and to die to find out that there is. Autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower. You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. You cannot create experience. You must undergo it. To be happy, we must not be too concerned with others. Nothing is more despicable than respect based on fear. Lying is not only saying what isn't true, it is also, in fact especially, saying more than is true, and, in the case of the human heart, saying more than one feels. We all do it every day to make life simpler. A man without ethics is a wild beast loosed upon this world. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that there was in me an invincible summer. Without freedom, no art. Art lives only on the restraints it imposes on itself, and dies of all others. I know of only one duty, and that is to love. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. He who despairs of the human condition is a coward, but he who has hope for it is a fool. The need to be right is the sign of a vulgar mind. But what is happiness except the simple harmony between a man and the life he leads? We get into the habit of living before acquiring the habit of thinking. In that race which daily hastens us towards death, the body maintains its irreparable lead. Don't wait for the last judgment. It takes place every day. We always deceive ourselves twice about the people we love. First to their advantage, then to their disadvantage. There is in me an anarchy and frightful disorder. Creating makes me die 1,000 deaths, because it means making order, and my entire being rebels against order. But without it I would die, scattered to the winds. The evil that is in the world almost always comes of ignorance, and good intentions may do as much harm as malevolence if they lack understanding. All great deeds and all great thoughts have a ridiculous beginning. Great works are often born on a street corner or in a restaurant's revolving door. Basically, at the very bottom of life, which seduces us all. There is only absurdity and more absurdity, and maybe that's what gives us our joy for living. Because the only thing that can defeat absurdity is lucidity. Truth, like light, blinds. Falsehood, on the contrary, is a beautiful twilight that enhances every object. To know oneself, one should assert oneself. It is a kind of spiritual snobbery that makes people think they can be happy without money. Charm is a way of getting the answer yes without asking a clear question. A guilty conscience needs to confess. A work of art is a confession. Ah, mon cher, for anyone who is alone, without God and without a master. The weight of days is dreadful. There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. I should like to be able to love my country and still love justice. For if there is a sin against life, it consists perhaps not so much in despairing of life as in hoping for another life and in eluding the implacable grandeur of this life. What is a rebel? A man who says no, but whose refusal does not imply a renunciation. Some people talk in their sleep. Lecturers talk while other people sleep. Truth is mysterious, elusive, always to be conquered. Liberty is dangerous, as hard to live with as it is elating. We must march toward these two goals, painfully but resolutely, certain in advance of our failings on so long a road. Those who write clearly have readers. Those who write obscurely have commentators. It is not your paintings I like, it is your painting. Against eternal injustice, man must assert justice, and to protest against the universe of grief, he must create happiness. Friendship often ends in love, but love and friendship never. Alas, after a certain age every man is responsible for his face. Without work, all life goes rotten. But when work is soulless, life stifles and dies. Integrity has no need of rules. At any street corner, the feeling of absurdity can strike any man in the face. The absurd is the essential concept and the first truth. We continue to shape our personality all our life. If we knew ourselves perfectly, we should die. Man is the only creature that refuses to be what he is. Those who lack the courage will always find a philosophy to justify it. Every revolutionary ends up either by becoming an oppressor or a heretic. One leader, one people signifies one master and millions of slaves. The gods had condemned Sisyphus to ceaselessly rolling a rock to the top of a mountain, whence the stone would fall back of its own weight. They had thought with some reason that there is no more dreadful punishment than futile and hopeless labor. Violence is both unavoidable and unjustifiable. All modern revolutions have ended in a reinforcement of the power of the state. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy. I am not made for politics, because I am incapable of wanting or accepting the death of the adversary. Your successes and happiness are forgiven you only if you generously consent to share them. The world is never quiet. Even its silence eternally resounds with the same notes, in vibrations which escape our ears. As for those that we perceive, they carry sounds to us, occasionally a chord, never a melody. Nobody realizes that some people expend tremendous energy merely to be normal. Beauty is unbearable, drives us to despair, offering us for a minute the glimpse of an eternity that we should like to stretch out over the whole of time. A man's work is nothing but this slow trek to rediscover, through the detours of art, those 2 or 3 great and simple images in whose presence his heart first opened. There is no love of life without despair of life. Every act of rebellion expresses a nostalgia for innocence and an appeal to the essence of being.